Okay, hello. I was already introduced, so I will quickly jump to my some of my practice examples, and I would like also to share a few thoughts on my thinking about like when technology in theater is a good idea and that sometimes it's not so good idea. So maybe first to show a few examples of my work, I tended to do big scale video installations. I'm tech savvy, like technology. Basically, I work a lot with combination of obsolete technology like CRT screens, standard video cameras, now obsolete, and I like to put these things under computer control, so that basically I have the texture of old media and control possibilities of modern technology. This is a big installation that was put together in Pula. Basically, it's all analog generative with video feedback. There is no, I'm very proud that there is no computer in the image. So image is only cameras connected in a very specific way to projectors, but directly. So all the visuals are basically video feedback based. These are some, on the right side is some kind of also very primitive video mapping installation in Rijeka. On the left is a part of lecture performance that I did talking about my oscilloscope-based work, and then two more images from installations that I really like video feedback. I worked a lot with it, and so basically I'm in a situation that I'm good with technology. I do my own programming. I like it, but with time, my attitude towards it changed a little bit. At first, I was always fascinated, as like I think that's normal, especially for young people, fascinated with technology, fascinated with possibilities, very excited to show what I can do. I think first I realized in fine arts exhibitions that I don't have to make installation interactive just because I can. It took me a few years to realize that it's that because in some parts that was also I was delaying my own decisions and relaying them to the audience, which after a while I realized that basically I mean I can also make my own decisions and not make the work necessarily interactive. And in theater, and in theater especially, I realized there is the problem. I mean, not the problem. The fact in theater that theater has built-in live deception. Like when you hear thunder in theater, you know that it's not thunder outside, that it's somebody pressing button or working with a sheet of metal. And so first case that I encountered dealing with that problem was performance by Nina Violic from 2000, I think. We did some very primitive way of triggering videos and audio, because basically the first problem was that it was low budget production and that Nina wanted to trigger everything by herself so that she doesn't need technicians. So I think we used the keyboard that we opened and put switches instead of keyboard keys. So she had some foot switches on the floor, which when she would press them, she would change the scenes for the show. And also there were some, I think, interactive maracas, like also just switches, like switching some dancers on the, which was all fine. But the only problem is that by the time that show went on, there was also unfortunately late light designer Miljac, who was sitting at the light desk. So no matter what Nina did on stage, nobody thought that she's actually triggering anything. So because there was technician on the side, and actually there was no real reason in the show for it to be interactive. So it was kind of it was successful, but it was also very meaningless in terms of it was not necessary. And now when I talk about necessary and not necessary, it's always important to remember that new technology in theater takes lots of time lots of time from rehearsals, lots of energy from performers. It's very easy to lose focus, and especially for people who do it for the first time, or it can really like completely shift the concentration from the performance to technical details and frustration with cabling. Basically, we go through it every time, especially when we are not talking about really high budget productions. The second case was show by Paolo Maggelli from 2008. It was Zagreb Pentagram was the name of the show, and in one scene we had one scene was played on video with a green screen in the background. It was like actually three layers, like performance from the green screen, then one layer of video in front, one layer from the back. Rather complex for that time. We had like a small green screen studio on the side of the stage. And again, the problem was that so the performers on the stage, actors, then they leave and start playing, and they were also like kind of making noise that audience would know that they are alive there. But for most people, they didn't realize that it's live. So the question was, why didn't we record it in the end? I was actually at first very disappointed because I thought like we did all this work for nothing. But then I realized that there is one really good cause that it's live, and the cause is that basically when you pre-record video and play it on stage, actors are typically in different energy and audience on every performance, and sometimes the pre-recorded video doesn't get the same energy, it's not in the same field. And in this case, it's always like they're in the same energy, they just go play it and get back. So that in that case, I realized that it's maybe not important that everybody knows that something is live, that basically my ego, which wants to be awarded, and I want the audience to say like, oh, it was so great, it's all live, that point is actually not important. It's more important that always the show itself should be most important. And also in this, so now when I think about technology and theater, I'm basically most happy when I quit something. If I see that it doesn't fit the show, that it's not needed, that I try not to be so fascinated by technology anymore. One reason is also my age, because as I get older and technology is faster and faster, I feel less inclined to catch all of that, and it's really going very quickly. And maybe the other problem that I see is that basically everything that we have on our phones in applications is typically more sexy and better made than the things we can do in the show. So it's difficult. It's a bit difficult to catch on with, like because the biggest spectacles, like all the funny filters that we have on all the chat apps are kind of, you can do it, but never so good as them. So that's kind of one simple example of what we have to deal with. And now I'll just go through some performances that I did. This was a project with the brothers Sinkhaus, they're musicians, and the project was called Day of the Year. For every performance, we would put the day number of day in a year, so like 40, 50 day of the year, 270 day of the year, whatever it was. This was production that we did in Student Center. This is also feedback-based video installation, so there is no computer in the image. It's all basically cameras, multiple cameras connected to multiple video projectors, and some small TV screens on stage which help create the texture and patterns. We performed it twice or once only. Then there is, how much time do you have?
15 minutes.
So well, okay, I'll go quickly. So then there was Buffet Titanic, was a show directed by Drago Brezovec, played in a very small space. We had three movable projectors, homemade, and the whole show was basically synchronized to music. So projectors were moving around the walls, and Branko is very specific in his directing style, because like very rarely directors have like 30 minutes of music that actors have to catch. So there are no sub cues that work for the actors. It's the other way around that you have to catch. So lots of synchronization, and I mean, technically and creatively very interesting project. And I worked with Anna Pushman on visuals and concept. Then this one was really nice. It was based on a comic book by late Željko Zorica Šiš in Student Center. Also, Tanya and Indoš were part of this project. Basically, we had to do the cartoon sequence, comic book sequence. The original idea was that we just used the set design of the cartoon, but then, of course, when we tried on stage, we realized that all the actors are in drawing, and it doesn't work at all. So it ended up kind of negative of comic book, where with empty white frames that are used as light. It was also interesting because actors have to be very precise in what they do and keep the place on this particular slide, and this one with the axe and this one with the knife. It was a violent comic book. We used also video projections as part of props. And this is the project. Actually, it's not just one project, it's many projects that I did with Indoš and Tanya. In this one, there was a band, lots of saxophones and metal parts. And here I use just projectors as light, for example, in this slide. In the other parts, I used the oscilloscopes for animated text that Tanya and Indoš supplied, and also we used some visuals for, I think, some war drones footage, and thank you very much, and that's everything from me. Oh, no, could I go on? Okay, 10 minutes. I already only talked with. Okay. I was so quick. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really would like to talk more, and maybe if somebody has some questions or comments on like, because I find that just fascination with technology is really like that very often it goes wrong way, and that it will not save the show. Like, you know, then it's not going to happen. And there were cases where, you know, you try to either by yourself or director doesn't know what to do in the theater, and you can just add as many things that you want, but it will not make the show better, because it's and also there is this huge burden of actually doing it in it's like very often we would do these shows and then performers just wait, and the whole whole rehearsal goes away, like literally of like 5 hours. 4 hours, it's like, why is, oh no, it's not working, let's try again. And there is basically never enough money, or also people, including me, are always a bit too optimistic when it comes to technology. I mean, you can also ask Tanya and Indosh how much time it takes on every performance, just change batteries, and these are pretty primitive devices that they use, but still it's like, it's just like always wires, and like, and it's always this. And I find that in these cases we forget about people more. We tend to that performers are in a way become less important, and I think that we lose much more of the show in that way. So in a way, I would propose and suggest to reconsider every time how some things can be done. Why do we need it? Well, in dance performances, interaction is something else, obviously, because like movement is directly connected to image or sound, and it's much more sensible. In theater, probably there are many sorts of theater, but in theater I find that still other things should be more important than this. And for dance, like, or some usual very old question that I get asked very often is like question of synesthesia, like basically it's in our heads, you know, and like always when you take music and want to show the video of it, or the sound of movement, it's interpretation. There is no sound of movement except this sound. There is no real visual of music. Like there is, you always have to interpret, connect the data or when plants make music. Yeah, plants make some electrical signals and you connect it in a certain way to get some sounds out. But claiming that it's sound of the plants is kind of, which I don't say that it's not, don't do it, do it. But be aware that it's always interpretation, and you're choosing what you show, and because maybe it also helps when, especially when it's movement to sound or visuals in dance performances. Basically, you have to do lots of filtering, lots of processing on the data of movement, even if it's sensors or it's camera, it doesn't matter, or sound. You have to process the data and tailor it to make it, especially if you want the result to be like clear, that like, oh, the movement is making sound. If you make it just conceptual, then you can just connect anything and it makes noise, but then the audience doesn't get it, which is also fine sometimes, but usually people are disappointed because they expect direct connection. So in these cases, it's always interpretation. There is no truth in this. There is only like creative decisions and work and lots of work with dance performance. I think lots of work for them, and again, lots of frustration when it doesn't work, and then you have to wait and then restart computer and all the things that, and also luck runs out typically, like with technology. The more I work with it, the less I trust it. Although computers are faster, I'm always scared that it will not work. And because there is always, the more experienced you are, you're aware of how many things can go wrong. And in a way, I think some part of the luck and lack of luck and optimism runs out, and basically, yeah. So good luck.
So sometimes we are more lucky when we lack technology.
Yeah. I think so.
Okay, thank you for stressing out such important questions, possible biases, and some negative sides of using the technology in performing arts. Please save your questions for the end of the session.
Oh.
And I'm